my name is Tori. This is Novel Life. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about some books that I've been wholly obsessed with. So if you watched my July wrap up, I had a lot of books that I was wholly obsessed with. I read some amazing books and I talked about them briefly in my July wrap up, but I wanted to sit down and just talk about them in a little bit more detail, just in case if you don't watch my vlogs or like I've sat on these books for a little while, I have a better way of describing my feelings and thoughts about those books. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I have a list of like 8 to share with you. So the first one that has not left my mind since I read this book is Terror at the Gates by Scarlett St. Clair. Now, I know so many people who are starting to read this and pick this up and they are also loving it, and I am so happy. I read Scarlett St. Clair since I want to say like 2019 when her first book in the Hades and Persephone series came out, so A Touch of Darkness. I read it when it was still indie published and I love that series, and I've been reading those books as they come out, and I recently just finished the Hades and Persephone series. Like, I know the last book came out last year and I got it signed by her when I met her at a Polycon and all this stuff like that, or was it a Polycon? At a book signing, I forgot which signing. And I finally finished that up this year because one, I'm trying to get through series, but also I wanted to like finally sit down, say goodbye to these characters. And Terror at the Gates is a brand new urban fantasy series by her. The Hades and Persephone series is also an urban fantasy series, but it's more like gods. Obviously, Hades and Persephone, there's all the gods and stuff like that. So this series is actually a little different. I would say it's a lot darker. This book is action-packed from page 1. There was not a time where I was bored with this book. There was not a time where I was like, okay, it's easy to put down and pick back up later. Like, there was not a slow point where I was like, I don't really care about this part or this character or anything like that. There's just so much about this book that I love. First off, Lilith Leviathan. I love her. She is our female character. You see at the beginning of the book, she is... she's stealing this dagger from this person, and she uses her power, she uses her magic to kind of like manipulate their emotions a little bit, to kind of like bend at her will. And she takes it, and when she tries to like resell it for money, because that's how she gets money, you see that's how she lives, how she pays her rent, all of that stuff, the person that she's selling it to, so basically like the shop owner, touches the dagger and dies. And she's like, what the hell? So she calls Zarayev and he comes to help her. Now, Zarayev is the head of the city that she's living in. So in this book, like, if you have the hardback, the territories and all that are on this, like, on the inside dust jacket, which I think is really cool. And basically, it's this one big city, and this city has multiple territories. Like, parts of the city is, like, owned by different families. And Lilith's father actually owns one part of the city, like a territory, but she is staying in Zarayev. So basically, her dad let her kind of like go off, have her fun in this city for a year, so she doesn't want to get married off. And basically, her magic will be used as a siphon, like her husband can siphon her powers once she's married off, and she doesn't want to do that. She doesn't want to fall into that. There's a lot of talk about like patriarchy. There's a lot of talk about women and what women should and shouldn't be. There's a lot of talk about religion. Like, there's a lot of stuff that happens and is talked about in this book, and I could go on and on and on and on about this book, but literally when I finished this book and I got to the ending, which that ending was not expecting that, I immediately wanted to pick this book back up and reread it, and I literally want to do that. I don't know when book 2 is coming out. I don't know if they've announced it, but I need that book like yesterday. I love what she did with this book. So yeah, needless to say, this was a 5-star book for me. When I read it, I was like, oh, 4.5. But I was like not generous, but I was like, oh, the beginning was slightly slow. You're trying to figure things out, but that's how it's supposed to be. And so the longer I sat on this, I was like, why am I being stingy? This is a 5-star read. So yeah, I really love this. Oh my God, I love this so much. I love our hero, very slow burn romance, and just... there's just so many aspects that I love. All the side characters I just love so much about this book. I feel like I can honestly spend hours talking about that book. Now, another book that I want to talk about is Lady of Shadows by Melissa K. Rourke. So this is the second book in the Lady of Darkness series. So for context, I read Lady of Darkness and I gave it 3.5 stars. It was a solid start, but I was invested in the series, so I'm going to keep reading. Now, I read this book and I gave it 4 stars. And what I love about Melissa K. Rourke's writing in general is that when she writes like fantasy romance and it's just the female and main male character, like you're following their story as well, it expands as the series goes on, and you get to learn more about the other characters, their stories, how they get coupled up and how they get paired up with people and where their love story goes. And that's what I love. So a lot of people will compare this to like the Throne of Glass kind of like vibes with like how expansive it is with the characters and stuff like that. And I just think people compare it to Throne of Glass because that's like a oldie that did that where it has it, but a lot of other fantasy romance series has that. It's like the found family. They may not necessarily be your blood family, but they're your family that they make it. And I am wholly obsessed with this series. I love this book. This one was slow at the beginning, but I liked the last half. I think that if she would have cut down book 1, cut down book 2, and combined book 1 and 2 into one book, it would have been a higher rating for me. I am going to read book 3 in August. I am so excited to get to that one. I have the audiobook. The audiobook is amazing. The narrators are so good. Highly suggest listening if you can. But I really love this series. I'm wholly committed. I want to finish out the Lady of Darkness series and then reread the Legacy series before the last book comes out in November. So I love seeing Melissa's writing. I love seeing how it develops and how it changes and how it evolves over the series. So I'm wholly committed to this series and I really love it. Also, if you love a shadow mommy, which is a term I've realized on TikTok they use, you would like this one. Now, the next 2 books I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about them together. It is A Tongue So Sweet and Deadly and A Promise So Bold and Broken. This is book 1 and 2 in the Compelling Fate series. Now, book 3 comes out August 20th. I will be ready. I will be set. I will be so excited to read that book. Book 4, I think, is coming out later this year. The author just said that she finished writing it or finished editing it. So this is an indie published fantasy romance series. And I was a little nervous picking this up because I saw it on TikTok and TikTok either goes well or horrible for me. Like, there's no in between, right? And so I was nervous and I was like, wait, I'm reading this book. I read the first book. I was like, okay, I'm obsessed. I gave it 4.5 stars. I thought it was super strong of a first book, very different than what I've read before, Trials, but in a very different way. And then I picked up book 2 and I was like, 5 stars. This is amazing. What the heck did I just read? Like, how do I feel this way? So basically, in the first book, you see our female character, she is half fae, and the human people look down upon half faes. They say things to them and all this stuff like that. And she's trying to live in the city called, I think it's Elwyn, if I'm saying that right. And she's just trying to live her life, okay? You see that she's rescuing children from a different city and of where she came from, and you're trying to figure all this stuff out. So it is kind of a lot, but you're like literally just dropped in and you're figuring it out. And I personally love that in fantasy romances. Like, that's my preference. But you see that she has a blood oath to the king. And when she has this blood oath to the king, basically she has to do literally every single thing that the king says. And she has basically a shadow. It's her bodyguard that basically has to check in with her every couple of days. And you see him, he doesn't look her in the eye because she has like compelling your emotions, or like that she can like manipulate your emotions and memories and stuff like that, like basically make you forget that you've seen something or make you think that you saw something when you didn't. It's a very interesting. So he does not look her in the eye because of that, and you see that he's just like begrudgingly there. And when the king basically says, I have this one more task for you, you do this task, you have your freedom, basically. That's when things get super interesting. I literally get so excited talking about this series, and I love how it goes from there. The trials come in when the king basically tells her, you have to run for regent of this city. I don't care if you win, but you need to spy. I want you to spy on the current regent because he has to also compete along with everyone else that wants to try and nobles, this person, that person who own businesses as well, to try and become regent, which is basically like mayor of the city. And you see that things get interesting because while she goes into these trials, she brings her bodyguard. The king is like, you have to have him with you to kind of like make sure that you're doing what I'm telling you to do. And she starts to have a little relationship with the current regent, and it gets so interesting. I will tell you, I have never gone from hating a character so much in book 1 to absolutely loving a character in book 2. Like, I don't remember the last time I did that. Usually it's opposite. I go from loving a character to hating a character because they do something. No, this is opposite. And I literally say in a vlog, I say, if this is the hero, I'm going to be so freaking mad. Book 2 comes around, and I'm like, oh my God, I still cannot get over how I go from literally hating a character to, like, after I read book 2, I'm loving him. Like, it's so bizarre to me, but I love it so much. So needless to say, I'm obsessed with this series. I cannot wait for book 3. I think book 4 is coming out in November-ish time, and I'm so excited. Like, I cannot wait. Now, the titles are kind of confusing. I've said that. They're kind of confusing, but they kind of make sense as you read them, like where the things come from. So, yeah, A Tongue So Sweet and Deadly is very interesting, and then A Promise So Bold and Broken is, oh my God, the ending of book 2. They all end on cliffhangers, okay? Like, we're just gonna say that. It's part of a series. They all end on cliffhangers. They're all relatively short. Like, I want to say they're under 400 pages, but I'm like wholly obsessed. Like, I love them so much. I need to order copies to have on my shelf. That's how much I love them. Now, switching gears a little bit, I have a historical fiction to talk about. So, well, I have two historical fictions. The first one I read for the historical fiction readathon, which I hope I don't lose you guys at this point of the video, but I do love historical fiction. And I think that if you are someone who reads like lit fic or anything like that, I think you would enjoy some of the historical fiction books that I'm going to talk about. So the first one is The Women on Platform 2 by Laura Anthony. So I literally, since I read this book, I have not stopped thinking about it as well. Like, just so many things as being a woman that we have to deal with. And then when I read something that's happened in the past and I'm like, but why is that happening again? I get so furious. So basically the premise of this book, 1970s in Dublin, you see one of our female characters, the book opens up following her. She's working at a department store. She meets this guy. He's really rich. He like courts her and he asks her to get married. They get married and she has to stop working at the department store. One thing I didn't know that in Southern Ireland during that time, once you get married, it's illegal for a woman to work. They're basically a homemaker at that point. They need to stay home, basically cater to the husband, have dinner made, breakfast made when they wake up, clothes, shopping, parties, all of that. That's their job. And I'm like, okay. So then we switch POVs to a different woman in the same time. You see that both of the female characters meet at a point, but she has 3 children and she is pregnant with her 4th. And you see that she is struggling with her pregnancy and something horrible happens. And the doctor basically says you can't have any more kids. And that really affects her marriage. Like, she loves her husband and she's like, how am I supposed to prevent a pregnancy but still have a relationship with my husband? How is that possible? And then the first female character you meet, you see that she is struggling because her husband, who she thought she knew, is basically abusive to her. And she tells herself, I can't bring a child safely into this world knowing what my husband is and how he acts and stuff like that. So you have 2 women who come from 2 different classes. Like, the woman who has 3 kids already, she is not like poverty, but like she doesn't live as well off as our other female character. So you see the progression of Dublin in 1970s of how they fight for women's rights for contraception and all of this stuff like that. And it is so beautiful. So beautiful and such an important story, especially now in the United States when they're trying to take away different contraception and access for women to safe like prenatal care or OBGYN care. It is so bizarre to me that like 60 years later, we're still dealing with that. Like, what is happening? What is happening in the world? Like, it is bizarre to me. So I love books like that where it makes you like reflect, and it just makes me rage. Like, I couldn't cry because of the things that happened in this book because I was so mad that they were happening, if that makes sense. But it is so powerful, so amazing. I love this author's writing. I think she can tell a beautiful story so well, but also like such an important place and time, if that makes sense. Now, the other historical fiction I'm going to talk about is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this one is also in the 80s, which I don't know if that's like the theme for historical fiction this year, but this is 80s for women in the NASA program. And you're following our female character. You see like the struggles that she tries to get into the NASA program. You see that she's exploring her sexuality, and she finds out that she likes women over men. And during this time in the United States, everyone had to keep their same-sex relationship a secret. And you see that she falls for another woman in the NASA program and how they're keeping it a secret. I really enjoyed the ride that we go on with Taylor Jenkins Reid. Like, I never know what to expect because her writing is always solid, but the story that she tells changes, and I don't mind that. It's very interesting how the evolution of the story is like so much more than just that. It's her relationship with her sister, her niece, being a mother figure to her niece, finding love, whether she can keep that love. You know what I mean? Like, it's so interesting and so powerful because like when you look back at the book after you read it, you're like, wow, there was a lot in this book. There's a lot to digest. And so I sat with it for a little while and I still really love it. So I am a fan of Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing. I know not everyone is, but I do love her books. And this is a new release that I want more people to read and pick it up if you haven't already. The last one I have to talk about is a fantasy romance. And it's one that I've mentioned previously in videos, but it is The Scattered Bones by Nicole Scarano. So I recently read this for a reading vlog where I was reading like fantasy romances and stuff like that back. And I think it was June, if I'm not mistaken. And this is another book that I gave 4.5 stars, but I still haven't stopped thinking about it. If you are someone who loves like lighter fantasy romances where the world building's not too intricate, the magic system's not too intricate, you're gonna love this. This also has some of the most romantic writing I have ever read in a fantasy romance. Like, it's just beautiful and romantic and just all of the things. Like, the whole premise of this book, that all I knew before going in, was our female character is basically picking up the pieces of her dead lover. Basically, something happened to her lover. You don't know at the beginning of the book, but his body has been scattered throughout the lands, and she's going around. You see that someone's following her, but it's more like how do I phrase it? It's like not a ghost, it's kind of a witch. Like, they can pop in and pop out, like they have magical abilities, and it's very interesting with that. But you see that she's picking up these pieces and trying to like put him back together. And you're trying to figure out why, who, what is happening, how did they even become to fall in love? And the story switches about 45% through, where you start to see like how they were before. It is so beautiful. Like, it is so short. It's like less than 300 pages, but I loved it. I loved the journey. I love how romantic it is. Like, that's why I love reading romance in general, but like, just like anything about love is like just how powerful it is and how you won't let it go and you will do anything for that person. So I loved that book. But those are just some books that I've been wholly obsessed with lately. Yes, they lean more towards fantasy romance because that's what I've been loving lately. But if you have some recent 5-star reads or books that you've been obsessed with lately, please drop them in the comments down below. I would love to know and add them to my TBR if I haven't read them already. If you've made it this far and you want to let me know, leave me the skull emoji with like the X, because the bones, like scattered bones, that's what I'm going for. So leave me the skull emoji or a skull emoji in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content for me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.